Just listen. I'm sorry what I did to Compton.
You are listening to
Fire emergency.
Please don't talk, just listen. I'm sorry, I killed that girl.
and oh, the peanut, not penis.
Exactly.
All right. So welcome once again to the Grim Fix podcast, where we satisfy your grim curiosities. I'm your host, David. I'm here with my co-host Charles and JR in the house.
What's up, everyone?
Welcome once again to the Grim Fix podcast. Thank you once again for listening and watching us. If you are watching us on YouTube, I only ask, it is totally free to like the video, share it with your friends, share it with at least 10 friends, and subscribe to the channel. Totally free. And we would also like to get some feedback, so please leave us a comment. You want to comment on the topic, you want to say hello. We answer any message that deems an answer. So yeah. If you are listening to us on your favorite podcast platform, please follow, subscribe. I don't know how that works, but yeah. Subscribe, follow, review, drop us a comment, and share it with at least 10 of your friends and family members. Just let them know how awesome this podcast is. So we are continuing with part 2 with our Killer Youth. I think that's a good one, right? Killer Youth.
Catchy. It's a catchy thing.
Killer
Youth.
Part Dukes. Yeah. So let's get it started. We're gonna jump right into the topic because part 1 we did a little banter, we did a little this and a little of that, and now we're gonna jump right into the case. So for those of you who have not listened to part 1, I recommend you go back, listen to part 1 so you know what we're talking about. We are talking about youth. I mean, I don't like saying children because not all cases are children. Some are teenagers, but they are under 18, right? Yeah, pretty much under 18. And you know what? I was going to read this one, but I also want to share another case that I have here.
Anyway, I have one here. His name is Craig Price.
Craig? Like Craig. Craigslist?
Yeah, like Craig.
Craig.
C-R-A-I-G? C-R-A-I-G, correct. Price.
What?
Price. Precio.
Price. Okay, Price. All right.
He was born October 11, 1973. He is an American serial killer who committed his crimes in Warwick, Rhode Island, between the ages of 13 and 15. He was arrested in 1989 for 4 murders committed in his neighborhood. A woman and her 2 daughters that year, and the murder of another woman 2 years earlier. He had an existing criminal record for petty theft. You know, he had bullshit going on, but hey, he actually had a happy childhood. Craig's childhood was what most would consider normal, although there is no such thing as a perfect family. His seemed pretty close. Although there is no such thing as a perfect family, his seemed pretty close. So far, there was no suggestion of abuse or mistreatment. In every article, Craig noted that he was a very happy child. Teachers and neighbors recalled that he had a comedic nature about him. As a child, he would help others. If neighbors needed a helping hand, he would not hesitate. Let it be carrying groceries or mowing their lawn. At 9 years old, he had dark thoughts of death and murder. People speculated that these thoughts contributed to his violent acts. By the time Craig had his 13th birthday, he had a litany of charges like breaking and entering, robbery, stalking, drug abuse, and assault. He had even joined a local gang. Craig had started experimenting with drugs like marijuana and LSD, which distorted his perception of reality by inducing hallucinations. One of the nights he was roaming around the neighborhood, lurking in the shadows. He found himself outside the home of a neighbor that goes by the name Rebecca Spencer. Rebecca rented the home and was living there with her brother and her two children, her 8-year-old son and her 4-year-old daughter. Rebecca's lease was due to expire at the end of July 1987. For weeks
I
she
hate
had
when they add stuff like that. How does
yeah,
that
it's
add
like
anything to the story?
exactly. She just had problems. Like, okay, let me just.
Did you write that on a piece of paper?
Yes, I actually
Did you
did.
write all those details?
Yeah, I actually did.
You're the
But it's
best.
like it's gonna help me, like remember it. But I guess it's not working. Anywho, the thing is, after they packed the look, she was with her friend, right? Her friend's boyfriend came. They helped out a little bit. They went out for ice cream. They came back. The girl, her friend, and her boyfriend, they bounced like about midnight. She went to bed. She didn't go to bed. She fell asleep in the living room. She went, she just started watching TV, fell asleep in the living room. Right there, Craig snuck in the house. Uh, in the like early morning, late at night.
He's
Like,
13 at this time.
yep, 13.
Okay.
Okay. Uh, He found her asleep in the living room, curled up in the blanket. He went into the kitchen. He grabbed he actually was gonna beat the shit out of her with a frying pan. But he saw a 10-inch knife and decided to use that instead. He returned to the living room and stood over Rebecca for several minutes and watching her as she slept. Suddenly, without a second thought, he bent down and started to stab her violently.
It's the Michael Myers shit, man. I'm telling you, the Michael Myers syndrome.
Michael Myers. He brutally stabbed her and punctured her liver, her heart, lungs, face, and head with a
Wow.
total of 58 stab wounds.
Wow.
That's nothing. His second one is this lady called John Keaton. She was married and her husband just killed himself. So she decided to move, make a new life, get a new place. It's her and her two daughters.
Mm-hmm.
And that, one night he was just smoking weed. He stood in her porch at night.
At 13.
At No, this one it was like 2 years later. After he did the first murder, he cooled down like for 2 years, but he still had them urges. So
Like
his
Dahmer.
second, huh?
Like Dahmer.
Right. So 2 years later, 15 years old, was smoking marijuana laced with LSD. Found himself at joint.
Wow.
But
Like getting wet. That's what they call it.
Yeah, I know you got secrets. Everybody got secrets. Didn't know you like to get wet, though. What's wet?
he was on September 1st, 1989. He was at Joan Heaton's house. After standing outside for a while, Craig decided to let himself into the house and headed straight for the kitchen. On the counter, he found a knife. He made a little bit of noise. Joan heard it. She came down, right? She saw this big guy in her kitchen. She screamed, So he freaked out before, like all the neighbors heard and whatnot. He, he went up against her, put his weight on her.
He's a
And
big kid.
yeah, he was a big kid. He was a football player. So you could imagine.
No, I'm looking here for a picture of him.
Yeah, you're gonna see what I was talking about with Charles.
Oh, okay.
Was the O because you saw him, or
I was imagining a white guy. I'm sorry.
exactly? I was picturing before I saw the picture, I thought it was a white guy, the white guy himself.
I
But
feel like every time it's serial killers, you imagine white people.
yeah, exactly. Anyway, he did the long stride and massive weight. Okay, whatever. right? And he didn't know. He was like, he wasn't sure if she was dead or she was just unconscious. So he still did 51 stabs on her. He stabbed her 51
Damn.
times. The thing is not that. The worst part to the whole story was that she screamed, she screamed once, woke up her daughters, her two daughters.
Yeah.
They came down to see, what was going on, just in case her mom got scared and whatnot. He saw the first girl, which is the oldest one. She's 10 years old, and quickly grabbed her because he knew he wasn't going to escape, without being noticed. So guess what he did? He stabbed the girl 62 times.
Oh my God.
Damn.
Right? While he was stabbing that girl 62 times, that girl was, she was able to scream out her sister's name, which is Melissa. She's 8 years old, and screamed and told her, yo, go grab the phone, call the cops. By the time she got to the phone, he was able to grab her. This is like the saddest part. He stabbed her 37 times, and after that, he crushed her head in with a stool.
Wow.
I mean,
A what? Oh, with a stool.
with a stool.
Then you watch those movies like Halloween. It's not that far fetched.
Yeah.
Tacho.
It's not that far fetched.
Yeah. Wow.
This
He
is a
was
13-year-old boy.
Look, he
He
was
was
arrested.
15 at that
15.
point.
He was
Okay.
15. He was arrested a month before his 16th birthday and was tried and convicted as a minor. By law, this meant that he would be released and his criminal record sealed when he turned 21. So the guy bragged that he would make history when he was released. So you could imagine, 21 years old, hey, I got a full clean record, but they still caught him, they still put him in jail, and yet he keeps causing more trouble and more trouble and more trouble. So they keep just piling up. I think he got like about 29 years so far that I've,
Yeah.
just between all his, what they gave him and what he has caused inside the penitentiary.
Yeah. No, it's shocking.
Not that shocking, but yeah,
Shocking.
This is from the same Collider list.
Yes.
And it says Jordan Browne, 11 years old.
Jordan Brown.
What could possibly possess an 11-year-old to shoot his heavily pregnant stepmother to be in the back of the head while she sleeps before heading off to school for the day?
Amazing.
Jealousy, according to prosecutors. 26-year-old Kenzie Hoke would soon be giving birth to a son, her first with her fiance and Jordan's father, Chris Browne.
Mhm.
Browne.
Chris Brown.
Hoke had two daughters from a previous relationship, aged 7 and 4, who were also part of the blended family farmhouse. It was her youngest who alerted nearby tree cutters to the crime on February 20th, 2009, approximately 45 minutes after the others had caught the bus to school. Chris Browne, who frequently took his...
Yeah, I'm sorry to laugh, but he, that there was just like, it's because he's hiding behind the mic eating a freaking Snickers.
It says, Chris Browne, who frequently took his son hunting, had gifted him a used model shotgun for Christmas, which was believed to be the murder weapon. A spent shotgun shell was also found on the path to the school bus stop. In 2012, and tried as a juvenile, Browne was found guilty. In Pennsylvania, a juvenile cannot be held in custody beyond their 21st birthday. 7 years after his arrest and 2 months prior to his 19th birthday, Browne was released into his uncle's custody and would remain on probation until he turned 21. And the name of the documentary is called My Son Is Not a Monster.
Yeah, yeah.
So basically, he killed her because he was jealous of what?
She was pregnant. She was going to have a child.
Wow.
Swallow. David swallows.
It's it's jealousy, I'm assuming. There was
Like,
huh?
I still don't get it. I mean, what possessed these kids to do such horrible things, man? Like,
But it's crazy because the the father, Chris Browne, and I want to clarify, it's not that Chris Browne. It's Chris Browne, some other Chris Browne. I'll look for pictures, see if I can find them. But yeah, it's not beating Rihanna's ass, Chris Browne. It's a different Chris Browne. So like he had bought his son. It was like I read that report, and there's actually another article that says that it was like a juvenile version of what is it, 20 gauge that it says in the report?
it says
22 gauge, something like that. It's a shotgun.
a used model shotgun. I
So
don't know what a used model shotgun is.
in the other article, it says that it was like a juvenile version. So basically, it was like a kid's version. I guess like a smaller type of shotgun for when you show your kids how to hunt and stuff. So to me, that's mistake number one. You know, you showing. I mean, I don't have anything against showing your kids how to hunt, but if you're leaving a firearm, if you're leaving a firearm at the disposal, so something that can take a life at the disposal of your child. How old was he?
He was 11 years old.
See, that to me is crazy. So, I mean, what do you expect? Again, it could have been anything. It could have been a simple. Listen, every kid, if they are corrected by their parents, there's gonna be a moment where you're upset with your parents, and thoughts that maybe you shouldn't have might cross a child's head. I mean, thank God, I'll tell you this one. I never had thoughts like that towards my mom or anything.
No, neither have I.
You know, but I know that there are kids that do that, and they tell their parents that they hate them. And, you know, you see in the TV, certain children, certain areas of the world, they're like, fuck you, mom. Like, that would not fly.
Cartman.
Any
That would not fly in a, you know, Hispanic household.
Screw you.
So, yeah.
You
But
just
yeah,
gave the whole thing away.
there was,
You just gave the whole thing away just by the way you said it.
what do you mean?
You understood, Charles, right?
Oh, so when you know, you know. Just leave it at that. Yeah, you know, it's like one of the cases that I saw today was I mean, this is quick, brief, because there's not much to say, but there's this kid. He was, I don't think I even wrote his age. I just wrote his name. His name was Nick Browning. And this kid ended up killing his parents and his two brothers. Mind you, wealthy family. According to the report, great parents, loving family. What would drive a kid to do such a thing? He was like 15. This kid was like involved in sports, a great student, blah, 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 et cetera, right? He says that his father was tough on him. So, I mean, this comes out afterwards. The investigation is, first of all, this kid was super entitled. He was self-centered, and he was not used to hearing the word no.
Yeah, like
so apparently, I guess dad put boundaries on him at that age, and he didn't like it. That's it. He knew his father was well off. He knew his father had money. He knew his father owned real estate. He knew how much the house was worth. And he says it while he's being interrogated. He goes, you know, when he's still denying that it was him, he says, why would I do this? I'm set for life. Like, why would I throw all this away? And he starts naming everything his father has. So he was well aware of everything his father was doing and what, money wise. So, like they said, if it was being upset was the motive, because then he tried to stage like the house was being robbed, but they didn't take anything. He shot his father in the head while he was laying in the sofa, went upstairs, shot his mom while she was sleeping in bed, and then went into the room and killed both his brothers, shot them both.
Wow.
And investigators say, he goes, listen, this was the only thing we can think of is money. He saw his brothers as as competition for the inheritance.
Wow.
So 15 years old. Yep.
Ah,
I was going to read this one, but I also want to share another case that I have here that I found mega interesting, super gruesome, and it's just insane, right? So this is the case of Beau and Monique Maestas, right? Siblings. The brother was around 19, but the sister was around 16 at the time. These two siblings decide this happened in Nevada, if I'm not mistaken. It's outside of like Vegas and whatnot. Small town Nevada. There's like maybe 2 casinos there, or Arizona, one of those 2 places. Small town. They decide that they want to get high. And they go to this couple's house to buy some drugs. I just thought of myself for drugs.
Drugs are bad. You shouldn't do drugs. If you do them, you're bad. Because drugs are bad. Okay?
Bad.
Okay.
So anyway, they decide to go to to buy some drugs, and they go to this trailer park and they speak to these 2 people. Bergeron, that's their last name. I don't have their first name here. Anyway, so they go to these people and they buy methamphetamines. I'm assuming they were gonna like sniff it. They go home and they decide that it was a botched batch of drugs. There was salt in there, so I guess when they sniffed it, it burned their nose. So they decide to go back to the trailer park to confront the Vergerums about, I think they paid $125 and they were pissed off. These 2 beautiful joyitas of parents, these 2 gems of parents decide to, first of all, they're selling drugs. They have 2 daughters at home. They have a 10-year-old and a 3-year-old. And they're selling drugs. After they made the sale, they decide to, hey, let's go to the casino and spend this money. And they decide to leave the 2 girls alone in the trailer. While they're out partying it out at the, the casino, the 2 siblings, the Maestas, show up at the trailer park, knock at the door of the trailer, and they start telling the kids to let them in. The older girl, which her name was Brittany, keeps telling them, no, I'm not allowed to let strangers in, whatnot, blah, blah, blah. She refuses to let them in. So the Beau Maestas tells his sister to maybe with a female voice, the girls will open the door. So she goes, knocks on the door and tells the girls, let me in, I'm here. I'm supposed to take you to your parents. Just open the door, blah, blah, blah. They decide to open the door. Brittany opens the door. She's the oldest, 10-year-old. To which they go in and they tell her, like, oh, yeah, put on your shoes. And Beau decides to. He sees the other girl, the little one, Christine. He decides to go and run and grab her, and she starts screaming. Long story short, this guy decides he grabs the oldest, Brittany, and stabs her. They were carrying whatever kitchen knives. They stab the other girl, and then the little girl starts screaming. So he goes and stabs her. I think it was her. Yeah. I mean, I don't want to get too graphic, but one of the stab wounds, like, I think the knife went almost completely into her head.
Oh.
And then, like, I think one of her feet was severed. And then the oldest girl, the sister, right? Monique Maestas, starts stabbing her also. This girl got stabbed 20 times. They leave. They go on the run. The 3-year-old did not survive. The 10-year-old, I think, dragged herself. She was stabbed in the back. When the guy stabbed her, the Beau stabbed her, I think he severed her spine. So she was paralyzed from the waist down. She was able, I think, to drag herself and call the cops. When the police arrived, she was still alive. She's still alive today. So at least it's something positive.
But hey, something good.
But the little one did not survive. And then these two went on the run. And then, they caught them like 5 hours later. They were driving towards like Utah. They're still serving in jail today. I think he is facing the death penalty, but has not been executed yet. But yeah, anyway, that was a case that like it really impacted me. Because just thinking about that, like the little kids, the little girl. But again, we look at the parents and it's like you really leave your girls. I mean, trailer parks are not known for being safe. And I'm not trying to shit on trailer parks just in case. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like, it's like they're not known for being safe.
Yeah, it's just like when they say Compton.
Yeah, when you say the projects.
The projects, exactly.
So it's
Caserío,
like it's just, yeah, and put yours in Caserío. Like it sucks, man. And they left these kids here, and not only are you selling drugs with your kids there, you sold a bad batch of drugs, and then you leave your daughters there. So that was that case. Anyway, I just wanted to share that. But you guys can look it up. This is the story of Beau and Monique Maestas. So Charles, you got anything?
Yes. I got Anissa Weier, 12 years old, and Morgan Geyser, 12 years old as well. And it says, beginning as a competition entry on the comedy forum Something Awful, faux mythical Slenderman captured creative minds, and a fascinating example of open source storytelling, the meme-turned phenomenon grew legs of its own. Soon, the creepypasta tales blurred the line between fact and fiction, and some began to believe in the existence of a faceless, suited long boy and his castle for children in the woods.
That's a documentary. They have it on HBO, just in case. Really good.
Says at least that's how Anissa Weier and Morgan Geyser told it. In 2014, the 12-year-olds lured their friend Peyton Lautner to a forest where they stabbed her 19 times. They claimed their motive was to become proxies of Slenderman, as read online. I even had to Google that because I don't know what Slenderman proxies or proxies of Slenderman is. And it says, the theory behind the name is that proxies are entities or people who are under the influence or control of the Slenderman, or the same force that influences Slenderman, and act based on its wants and needs. Hence, proxies serve as an in-between. So basically, they were doing whatever Slenderman wanted them to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically that's what happened. Incredibly, Lautner crawled to a roadway where a cyclist found her and called authorities. After 6 days in the hospital, she recovered. The girls were found not guilty of attempted murder by reason of insanity. You can watch Beware the Slenderman on HBO. That's where they got the thing. So, yeah.
They said that they had to do it to her because Slenderman told them to do it. And if they didn't do it, Slenderman told them that he would kill their family.
Insane.
So,
La excusa de todo.
yeah.
Slenderman.
All right, so I have here Charlie Starkweather, aka Charles.
Hey, Mr. Mustache.
So he was brought up in a respectable home with well-behaved siblings. He was the third of 7. Wow. In contrast, Starkweather's time in school was unpleasant because he was often teased and bullied for his limitations. He was born with genu varum, which is a leg deformity. He had a speech impediment, and he also suffered from severe myopia. I'm assuming that's why that you could barely see, right?
Myopia.
Yeah.
Que no ve de lejos.
Okay, you can't see. You're what is it? Nearsighted.
Yeah.
All right. So the only place he excelled was in gym class, and he became to bulk up as a result. With his newfound physique, Starkweather transformed from bullied to bully and went from the most well-behaved teenager to the most troubled student. By 1956, he became 18 years old, and Starkweather was introduced to Carol Ann Fugate, who was 13 at the time, and the two quickly hit it off. Gradually, Charlie convinced himself that he had to become a criminal in order to gain money and respect. On December 1957, he committed his first murder and at once felt euphoric and peaceful. The day after Charlie robbed and murdered his first victim, Robert Culver, he admitted everything to Carol, right? His girlfriend, I guess. This confession caused their bond to become even more intense. It would also lead to their mass murdering road trip. Charlie, 19 years old at the time, along with his 14-year-old girlfriend, carried out the 2-month spree that inspired films like California and Natural Born Killers. The teens strangled, stabbed, sexually assaulted, and shot 11 different victims between December 1957 and January 1958. So basically in a year and a month. No, wait. Bullshit. A year and a month? No, in 2 months. Yeah. Goes December 1957. Year changes to 1958. Yeah. In 2 months. Across the states of Nebraska and Wyoming, including his girlfriend's family. The day of their final murder, the duo ran into law enforcement, and Starkweather's girlfriend confessed, resulting in their high-speed capture. Starkweather was sentenced to death by electric chair 17 months after he was arrested. That's one of the first cases that I've seen where they get caught, get convicted, and they quickly get executed. Because you see these people on death row, like they spend years, most of them.
Yeah, alargando.
All right, so anybody else got something?
Well, I have the the Columbine one, which everybody already knows.
Yeah, let's talk about Columbine.
I know I have coworkers who I've mentioned. Do you know the Columbine case? And they don't know it. So I think it's a 90s thing. It wasn't the 90s, right?
Yeah, Columbine, I think is like the
1999.
Not the first, but like the first
Massacre?
major like school shooting event.
I think I remember. I think I remember when it happened.
I remember exactly where I was too when I heard
big.
about it. It was at work.
It was big.
We were outside during lunch.
So it says that the word Columbine has become synonymous with massacre thanks to the depraved actions of 2 teenage boys on April 20th, 1999. From 1997, there were numerous displays of the boys' growing obsession with violence and murder. And as Harris turned 18, only 11 days prior to their plan, they procured guns through older friends and planned meticulously in the year leading up to the mass shooting. They also documented it all in their respective journals and on videos recorded with school equipment. So 12 students and one teacher lost their lives that day, with an additional 21 treated for gunshot injuries. It was at the time the deadliest school shooting in U.S. history. Since then, countless copycats have tried to emulate their notoriety. Most media outlets no longer print the names of perpetrators for this reason. So you can watch the documentary Bowling for Columbine. I remember when they were blaming it on Manson. They were like, "Oh, they love Marilyn Manson."
Oh, Marilyn Manson.
Everything was blamed on.
Everything was blamed on Manson.
I remember. I remember when
well,
it happened. First, it was
not Charlie Manson, but
Marilyn Manson. They tried to
Rock
blame
itself.
the Matrix.
Yep.
They tried to blame Basketball Diaries with Leonardo DiCaprio. And yeah, that was it, right? With what is it? The Trench Coat Mafia. The microphone passed out. Yeah, these are man, this case. And it's crazy because after that also, I feel like, I mean, these kids, I'm not trying to give them notoriety or any props or anything, but they changed America forever. After that, that's when they started doing lockdown drills in schools, which is something I don't think they do in Puerto Rico.
No, not that I know.
They wanted to start doing that crap. I'm like, why? Like that hardly happens over here.
Well, I mean, yeah, but
want to imitate the
happen
States
sooner or later.
No, I mean, but thank God it's never happened in New York either. But it's something that it's good for people to be ready. But to be honest, the first time I saw that, I was actually like creeped out about it. You know, having you to teach your kids how to hide in a classroom, locking the doors in the classroom, turning off lights. It's a scary thought, man. And I mean, it all started because of that, because of after Columbine, you know, all these, and then after that, it's like we started seeing school shootings become more and more common, which is a creepy thought, you know, like what was it? The latest one was in Texas. So all those kids got killed.
Is it true that the song Pumped Up Kicks is about Columbine?
I don't know. That's a question for Google.
Hey, Google.
Let's ask Google. Hold up.
Let's ask Google.
What is it? Pump Up what?
Pumped Up Kicks by, I think it's, who sings that? Foster the People. I think the artist.
Let's see. Is Pumped Up Kicks about a school shooting? The meaning of Foster the People's Pumped Up Kicks. Okay, so let's look into Pumped Up Kicks. I don't even know what that is. I probably heard it, but how does it?
There's all the other kids with your pumped up kicks. Better run, faster than a bullet. It's an old song.
Really?
All right, so let's read this quickly here. This is from extrachill.com, right? And the article says the meaning of Foster the People's Pumped Up Kicks. Foster the People's 2010 smash hit Pumped Up Kicks was the first ever release from the band, which started as a solo project for then television jingle writer Mark Foster. The song sounds like an upbeat indie pop anthem, but there's a darker truth lurking beneath the bubbly soundscape. It was a massive hit in the fall of 2010, blaring out across the airwaves everywhere, and only a few took the time to consider the meaning behind Foster's lyrics. Pumped Up Kicks tells the story of a troubled kid named Robert, who's got a quick hand and sits around plotting his revenge in the form of a school shooting. He sings about the gun that he found in his father's closet and warns the other kids that they better run faster than my bullet. With the song being so popular, Foster has often been asked about the meaning of Pumped Up Kicks and has explained that it was written to bring awareness to the issue of mental health and gun violence in teenagers, something that he had been hearing more and more about in the news at the time. One such interview took place in the Los Angeles radio station KROQ in 2011. It says, I kind of wrote the song to bring awareness to the issue. That sort of things keeps happening more and more in our country. It's kind of turning into an epidemic. To me, the epidemic isn't gun violence. The epidemic is lack of family, lack of love, and isolation. Kids who don't have anywhere to go or anyone to talk to, and that's what makes them snap. When a 13 or 14-year-old kid brings a gun to school and does something, sure, you blame them for making that choice. But at the end of the day, he or she is still just a kid, and there's a lot of other things that led up that moment that should have changed. The subject matter of Pumped Up Kicks has also been the cause of some controversy over the years, starting right when the song went viral. I feel like I don't remember that song.
I'm pretty sure that if you hear the tune, you remember right away.
I'll look it up after this. It says some accuse Foster of fictionalizing Robert Hawkins, the perpetrator of Westroads Mall shooting that took place in Omaha, Nebraska in 2007. Foster insists that the characters' names are just a coincidence. However, the song has remained extremely popular since its release, and unfortunately, school shootings, as well as teenage gun violence and mental health issues, have continued to rise in America.
Sad.
It says that this has led Foster to second guess his writing of the song, especially since some of who have committed such heinous acts have mentioned Pumped Up Kicks, both in their journals and in person. Wow. Then it keeps going, but on this.
Or, you know.
All right, so that has been this episode of the Grim Fix Podcast. Again, search for us. Find us on Instagram and Facebook. Drop us a message. Send us your story, the Grim Fix Podcast at gmail.com. Please subscribe, like the video, subscribe to the channel, share it with your friends, subscribe to the podcast, share it with your friends, drop a review, give us some stars. This has been the Grim Fix. This has been the Grim Fix Podcast.
I want some egg rolls, man.
Be safe. Damn it.
Real egg rolls, not Puerto Rico egg rolls.